Spark Books here. Today, I'm going to explain the book, We Need to Talk, by Celeste Headlee. Take care, enjoy the book, and have a nice day. We Need to Talk, 2017, walks you through the art of good conversation, a vital but often undervalued skill. It shows how effective conversation leads to more meaningful relationships and a greater understanding of other people. The book also offers advice on how to improve your own conversation skills. Key idea number 1. Modern living has given us lousy communication habits. Compared to a snow leopard or Komodo dragon, you might wonder how humans became dominant. There are faster, bigger, and stronger animals than us. Even with poison teeth, humans have succeeded. Communication is one factor. We make up for our lack of physical strength by talking and listening in minute detail. Evolutionary benefits abound. We should strive harder to communicate, though, in fact, we're worsening. Good communication is crucial to being human, yet modern life has hampered us. Poor communication costs money, so it's worth learning to do it correctly. According to a 2008 estimate, huge US and UK corporations might lose $37 billion annually. It's not merely financial or business related. Another study found 2010 college students were 40% less sympathetic than in 1980. Technology and social media create shallow connections, not empathy. In another study, researchers asked strangers to chat in a room with a cell phone and half of them. The phone's presence hindered the couple's communication. The pairs in cell phone-free rooms reported greater relationships, trust, and empathy. Do something. Putting away your phone is the start. More important, start taking dialogue seriously. It's typical to blame the other person for a lousy conversation. Stop it. You'll be shocked if you shape a fascinating conversation yourself. Key idea number 2. Find common ground to tackle the toughest conversations. Avoid tough conversations? Often, sometimes unpleasant conversations turn out well. Take Zernona Clayton, a 1930s-born civil rights activist. As chairman of a city planning program in Atlanta, Georgia, she collaborated with Calvin Craig, a prominent KKK member. Clayton recognized this, but she and Craig needed to work together. Craig often visited Clayton's office, noting she was delightful to talk to after a chilly start. Craig abandoned the KKK in 1968 and credited Clayton with his conversion. Find common ground to tackle even the toughest conversations. Judgment-free conversation is difficult. Clayton and Craig's tale shows that even persons with opposite viewpoints may find common ground. It's easy to assume you have nothing to say to your ideological opponents in today's polarized society, but it's worth trying. Everyone has prejudices, whether racial or not. Consider that your child is going to a friend's house and you're talking to the other parent. You may agree on political topics, but does that guarantee your child is safe? We assume agreement on one item means agreement on everything, and disagreement on one thing can lead us to presume disagreement on everything. Not necessarily. Respect and commitment are key in every conversation. Try to understand the other person's perspective. Calvin Craig was persuaded by Zernona Clayton's engaging discussion. Disagreement is okay. Not every talk must end in tears and eternal friendship. Listen, the next blink may surprise you. Key idea number 3, don't assume you know others' struggles. The author has interviewed several guests on her radio show. She makes conversational errors, too. Different knowledge bases are fine. We often pretend to know when we don't. Simply stating what you don't know can establish trust. When a friend's father died, she comforted her. The author responded by telling how her father died when she was 9 months old. Her friend was even more unhappy. She said, "When she has a father." The author didn't mean that. She realized she'd talked about herself and not her companion. Don't assume you know others' struggles. We typically do it unconsciously. Derber calls it conversational narcissism. Derber identifies 2 conversational responses: shift and support. Despite good intentions, the author shifted. Me Too shifts the focus from the other person to yourself. If a friend says they're busy, you can reply, "Me too." Supporting them keeps the attention on them. What's on your friend's agenda? Responding this manner is difficult. It's normal to project on others. So works empathy. You imagine having a nice meal when it's described. Sometimes your life doesn't match another's. Imagine you cut your finger and needed medical attention. When a buddy says she cut her finger in a similar way last night, you'll recall your own experience, even though her injury was small. Bereavement may be a serious topic. Different knowledge bases are fine. We often pretend to know when we don't. Simply stating what you don't know can establish trust. Key idea number 4. Open-ended inquiries can get people talking, but listening is the real power. Asking the right questions might help a friend or colleague open up in discussion. If you invest fully in your talks, you'll quit wool-gathering and ask the greatest, open-ended questions. You'll listen carefully. In the next blink. You might believe a long, detailed query will elicit a long, detailed answer. Nope. Who, what, where, when, why, or how encourage a detailed response. Open-ended questions require a longer answer than yes or no. It's a journalistic method, but anyone may use it. There's more to do. Open-ended inquiries can get people talking, but listening to what they say is more powerful. Interview a tornado survivor. If you inquire, "Were you scared?" they'll reply yes and be done. Open-ended questions about being near a tornado are best. Ask how it sounded or felt. Let them describe the event. Fearing silence helps. Many of us fill silences impulsively, yet a pause can mean people are listening. Taking a moment to gather your thoughts can spark a dialogue. Wool gathering means letting your attention stray away from what the other person is saying, like strolling a field gathering wool from the bushes. Rare is true listening. Sometimes you wool gather while trying to interact, as when you're thinking of what to say while the other person talks. Don't stop listening. Focus on what someone is saying and let the discussion flow. If you invest fully in your talks, you'll quit wool gathering and ask the greatest, open-ended questions. You'll listen carefully, in the next blink. Key idea number 5. Active listening is key. The brain changes when people talk about themselves. According to a recent study, it found that talking about oneself activates the same area of the brain as eating sugar, doing cocaine, or having sex. It seems self-promotion is fun. But not listening, it's tough. If you believe it's just not talking, you're wrong, it's a skill. It can be learned, though. Listening is active, not passive. You probably aren't very good. Most individuals think they're good listeners, yet technology offers countless distractions. Ever check your phone during a meeting? You're not multitasking. Dual attention is impossible. Distractions. You may enhance your active listening with practice. People communicate through more than words. Tone of speech and gestures have deep meaning. Consider these things to better understand someone's message. Instead than worrying about your next comment, attempt to predict the other person's. Try summarizing what they're saying in your brain to focus. The author's epiphany was opera. As a child, her musical family exposed her to opera. She didn't really listen until she had to learn an aria for an audition years later. She finally got it. Listening is similar. It's harder than it sounds and requires your involvement. It's worth it. Key idea number 6. When speaking, consider your audience. Listening is only half of any conversation. Even if you're listening carefully, you'll have to talk too. Imagine you want your buddy to catch a certain ball. Would throwing multiple balls help? Unlikely. They'd miss everything trying to capture everything. How can you make good conversation contributions? Consider how you sound to your listeners. Helpful tips. Be succinct. First, be clear. Avoid shaggy dogs. That's next. Be sensitive to the listener when speaking. Most public radio interviews last 5 minutes. A good interview may seem longer since it's full of intriguing information, but heating a frozen pizza takes longer. Reasonable. According to one study, humans have a lower attention span than goldfish. We can all improve, but if you talk too long, people will get bored. Watch your chatting companion. They ignore you? Are you rushed? If your partner isn't ready to catch the ball, don't throw it. Repeating a point won't make it more remembered. Repeating helps the speaker remember, but not the listener. If you repeat yourself too much, the other person may ignore you. Don't tell shaggy dog stories, in which every detail is so elaborated that the audience loses interest. Too much information is distracting and won't help someone remember something. Imagine you want your buddy to catch a certain ball. Would throwing multiple balls help? Unlikely. They'd miss everything trying to capture everything. Key idea number 7. Good talks are hard, but they're worth it. As a radio host, the author talks to individuals. She's never off, though. She often asks her kid to undertake administrative things when she gets home from work. A discussion away. Antisocial? Nonsense. She has boundaries. Truly rewarding discussion needs effort, therefore it's sometimes better not to have one than to be unprepared. Good conversations are challenging, but they benefit everyone. Conversations vary. A 2010 study questioned Arizona students how happy they were and linked their replies to their talks. Happiest students were gregarious, which isn't surprising. The happiest pupils weren't necessarily the most talkative. Those who have significant chats. Socializing pays off. Engaged is superior. Small talk isn't good conversation. Quality trumps quantity. Why is discussion healthy? Empathize. Empathy among young people is declining, which is worrying. Empathy helps us comprehend and connect with others. Being sensitive and focused on others is healthy. Volunteering can improve your health and happiness. Volunteers may live longer, according to one study. Plus, Empathy benefits the other person because a good conversation is about more than you. Learning about other people's thoughts, feelings, and motivations is hard but rewarding. A discussion away. Conversation is part of what makes us human, but we don't always value it enough, especially since the emergence of technology. To have a good discussion, pay attention, be open-minded, and listen well. You'll be happier and more empathetic if you master it. To view more content like this, subscribe. Don't forget to like and turn on notifications. The channel really benefits from it. I appreciate you being here.